samsaradava nalalita loka tranaya karuna gana ganatam samsaradava nalalita loka tranaya karuna praptasya kalana kunarnavasya vande uroshi charanaravindam Mahaprabhu kirtana nritya gita Vaditramadyan manasora-sena Romanchakam pashutaranga bhajo Vande uroshi charanaravindam Shivigraharadana nityanana Shingaratama Tiramarjanado Yutasya bhaktam chaniyunjatopi Vande uroshi charanaravindam Chatuvidhashi bhagavat prasada Sadhana triptan haribhakta sangham Kiriteva triptim padatasa deva Vande uroshi charanaravindam Shirathika Madhavayorapara Madhurya Lila Gunarupa Namnam Pratishanasa Tanalolupasa Vande uroshi charanaravindam Nikunja yuno ratikeli sithai Yayari pe yuktera peshaniya Tatrati daksha dativala phasa Vande uroshi charanaravindam Sashathari tena samasta shastre Uttasthathapa Viteva sathi Sashathari tena samasta shastre Uttasthathapa Kintu prapoya priya eva tasya Vande uroshi charanaravindam Kintu Prapoya Priya Tassa Vande Guru Sri Charanaravitam Yasya Prasada Bhagavat Prasado Yasya Prasadam Nagati Kutopi Yasya Prasada Bhagavat Prasado Yasya Prasadam Nagati Kutopi Dhyayanstu Vam Tasya Yashasti Sandhyam Vande Guru Sri Charanaravidam Dhyayanstu Vam Tasya Yashasti Vande Guru Sri Charanaravidam Vande Guru Sri Charanaravidam Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pachatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Chaitanya Nityananda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Haraya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha, Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha. Gopa Govinda Ram Shrimatu Sudana, Giridhari Gopinatha Madana Mohana. Govinda Ram Shrimatu Sudana, Giridhari Gopinatha. Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita, Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita. Shri Rupa Sanatan Pata Raghunatha, Shri Jiva Gopala Pata Dasa Raghunatha. Hariharaya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha, Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Nilam Hata Radha Nilam Hata Radhe. Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadra Jaya Sudarshan Chakra. Jaya Sitaram, 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 Jaya Lakshmana Hanuman. Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha. Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Guru Deva, Guru Deva, Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva. Nittai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nittai Gaura Haribo. Jai Om Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Parajaka Ashtotara Shatashi Madhyanga Abhayam Malinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON founder Charlie Tibet founder Charlie Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Parajaka Ashtotara Shatashi Madhyanga Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Shri Haridasa Ki Jai. Prinsek Ho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Radha Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Marka Dham Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Shri Ganga Devi Ki Jai. Shri Yamuna Devi Ki Jai. Shri Bhakti Devi Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. All glory to the Sun Bodhi Bodhi. All glory to the Sun Bodhi Bodhi. All glory to the Sun Bodhi Bodhi. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glory.
Namaste Narasimhaya. Prahlade Lade Daine. Hiranyakashi Purvakshaha. Tilatankan khalaye. ito narsimho parato narsimho yato yato yami tato narsimho Bahir Narsimha Hridaye Narsimha Narasimha Madim Charanam Prapade Tavakara Kamala Varenakam Adbhuta Shingam Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanubinga Keshavadrita Narohari Rupa Jagadish Hare Jaya Jagadish Hare Jaya Jagadish Hare Keshavadrita Narohari Rupa Jaya Jagadish Hare Jaya Jagadish Hare Jaya Jagadish Hare Jaya Narasimhadev, 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 Jaya Narasimhadev. Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. श्री श्री नरसिंहदेव भगवान की, भक्त शिरोमणि प्रहलाद महाराज की जय। माता जी। नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः राधा कृष्ण सेवा पाओ ऐ अभिलाषी राधा कृष्ण सेवा पाओ ऐ अभिलाषी जेतमारा शरण लो तारा वंचा पूर्ण होए कृपा करे करो तारे वृंदावन वासी मोरा ये विलास कुंज दियो वास नयने हरि बो सदा युगल रूप राशि ऐ निवेदन धारो सखीर अनुगत करो सेवाधिकार दिए करो निज दासी दीना कृष्ण दास कोई ऐ जिना मोरा होए श्री राधा गोविंदा प्रेम सदा न भासी श्री राधा गोविंदा प्रेम सदा न भासी यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani. Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi. Nittai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nittai Gaura Hari Bol. श्री वृंदा देवी तुलसी महारानी की जय.
Rama Samita ki jai, Ishwara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Advaita Govinda Sarvakarna Karanam Chintamani Prabhu Sadmasakalpa Vriksha Lakshavri Susrabhira Vipaliantam Lakshmi Sahasrasata Sambrahma Sevyamanam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Venam Gunantam Aravinda Dalayataksham Barhavatam Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandharpa Kotikamaniya Vishesha Sobham Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Alola Chandra Kalasatvanamalyavamsi Ratnam Gadam Pranay Keli Kalavilasam Shamam Chibanga Lalita Nita Prakasam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasya Sakilendriya Vrittimanti Pasyanti Panti Kalyanti Chiram Jaganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadujvala Vigrasya Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Ananta Rupam Adyam Purana Purisham Navayovanam Cha Vedesa Durlabam Adurlabam Atma Bhakto Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Pantastakoti Satavatsara Sampragamyo Vayo Ratapi Manaso Munipungamanam Sopyasti Yat Prabhadasimya Vichintya Tatve Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ekopya Sora Chayatum Jagaranda Kotim Yaschakti Rasta Jagaranda Jaya Yadanta Antanta Rasta Paramanu Chayantarastam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yat Bhava Bhavita Deyomyan Manjasta Taiva Samprapya Rupa Mahima Sanayana Bhusa Suttarya Meva Nigama Pratitaistavanti Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasat Pratibhavita Bhista Birya Eva Nijarupa Tayakalabi Goloka Eva Nivasata Kilakma Bhuto Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Pramanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santaksa Deva Hidesu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ramadi Murti Sukala Nimena Tistana Navatar Makarod Bhuvanesu Kintu Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Paramam Pamamyo Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yasya Prabha Pavavato Jagaranda Koti Koti Swasesa Vasudati Vibhuti Binam Tad Brahman Iskalamanantam Asesa Bhutam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Maya Hiyasya Jagaranda Satani Sute Jaygunya Tad Visaya Veda Vitaya Manam Sattva Valambi Parasatvam Visuddha Sattvam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasat Mataya Manasu Ya Praninam Pratifalam Smaratam Upedya Leelaya Tena Bhuvanani Jaya Yajasram Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Goloka Namni Nichidamni Tale Chitasya Devi Maheswari Dama Satesu Tesu Te Prabhavani Jaya Vihitas Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Sistista Tipala Isadava Sakti Reka Chayeva Yasya Bhuvanani Vibharti Durga Ischanu Rupam Abhyasya Chichesta Tesa Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Siram Yata Dadi Vikara Visesa Yoga Sanjayate Nahitata Pritakaste Etu Yasam Bhutama Pitata Samipati Karya Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Dipartha Devi Hita Santanam Abhyabhetya Dipayate Vivite Hetu Samanu Dharma Yastadri Geva Hicha Vishnu Taya Vibhati Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yakarna Narnava Jale Bhajatisma Yoga Nidram Ananta Jagaranda Sarvama Kupa Adhara Sakti Avalamya Param Swamurtim Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yasyaika Nisvasitakala Matavalamya Jivanti Loma Vilaja Jagadanda Nata Vishnur Mahansa Yasya Kalaviseso Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Basmanya Tasma Sakalesana Jesu Teja Sriyam Kiyat Prakatayata Pitatva Tatra Brahmaya Esa Jagadanda Vidana Karta Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yat Pada Pala Vigam Vinadaya Kumbha Dwande Pranama Samayesa Ganadi Raja Vignan Vihanta Malamasya Jagatrayasya Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Agnir Mahika Ganamambu Maruti Sascha Kala Statatma Manasiti Jagatrayani Yasmat Bhavanti Vibhavanti Visanti Yamcha Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yaschaksuresa Savita Sakala Grahana Raja Samasta Suramurti Rasesa Teja Yasya Gaya Brahmati Sambrita Kala Chakro Govinda Mahadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Dharmo Tapapa Nichaya Sudayastapamsi Brahmadi Kita Patakava Tayasta Jiva Yadata Matari Bhava Prakadarpa Bhava Govinda Mahadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yastrindra Gopa Matavendra Mahosva Karma Bandhan Rupa Falabhaja Namatanoti Karmani Nirdati Kintucha Bhakti Bhaja Govinda Mahadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yam Krodha Kama Sahaja Pranayadi Bhitti Vatsalya Moha Guru Gaura Vasevya Bhava Sanchintya Tasya Sadrisintan Mahapurete Govinda Mahadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Shriya Kanta Kanta Parama Purusha Kalpataravo Drumabu Mishchitamani Ganama Ito Amritam Kata Ganam Natyam Gamanam Apivam Sipriya Saki Chiranandam Jyoti Param Apitata Swatyam Apicha Sayatra Siradi Bihisravadi Sirabi Vyasta Suman Nimesa Dakyovava Jitina Yatripi Samaya Bhaje Svita Dvipanta Maham Iha Logola Kamitiam Vidantaste Santakshati Virachari Katya Kjarchara Katipaye Shri Guruvastika prayers Ki Jai. The spiritual master is receiving benediction from the ocean of mercy, just as a cloud pours water on a forest fire to extinguish it. So the spiritual master delivers the materially afflicted world by extinguishing the blazing fire of material existence. I, for my respectful obeisance of the lotus feet of such a spiritual master, is an ocean of auspicious qualities. Chanting the holy name, dancing in ecstasy, singing and playing musical instruments, the spiritual master is always gladdened by the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because he is relishing the mellows of pure devotion within his mind, sometimes his hair stands on end, he feels quivering in his body, and tears flow from his eyes like waves. I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is always engaged in the temple worship of Shri Radha and Krishna. He also engages his disciples in such worship. They dress the deities in beautiful clothes and ornaments, clean their temple, and perform other similar worship. But, O Lord, I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is always offering Krishna 4 kinds of delicious food, analyzed as that which is licked, chewed, drunk, and sucked. When the spiritual master sees that the devotees are satisfied by eating Bhagavad Prasada, he is satisfied. I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is very dear because he is expert at assisting the gopis who at different times make different tasteful arrangements for the perfection of Radha and Krishna's conjugal loving affairs within the groves of Vrindavana. I offer my most humble obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is to be honored as much as the Supreme Lord because he is the most confidential servant to the Lord. This is acknowledged in all revealed scriptures and followed by all authorities. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master as the bona fide representative of Sri Hare Krishna. By the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the benediction of Krishna. Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement. Therefore, I should always remember and praise the spiritual master. At least 3 times a day, I should offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master. His divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Gaur Premanandi Haribol. Srimad Bhagavatam. Canto 3, Chapter 4, text number 16. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Karmanyatasya bhavabhavayasya te.
Karmani atasya bhavabhavasya te.
Durgashrayotari payat palayanam.
Durgasrayotari bayat palayam.
Kalatmano yat pramada yutasraya srama.
Kalatmano yat
Mada yutasraya swatman ratekti yate dirvidam iha.
swatman ratekila yatvidam ya.
Karmani, activities. Anihasya, of one who has no desire. Bhava, birth. Abhavasya, of one who is never born. Te, your. Durga Ashraya, taking shelter of the fort. Ata, thereafter. Aribayat, out of fear of the enemies. Palayanam, flee. Kala Atmana, of he who is the controller of eternal time. Yet, that. Pramada Ayuta, in the association of women. Asrama, household life. Swa-atman, in your own self. Rate, one who enjoys. Kidyati, is disturbed. De, intelligence. Vidam, of the learned. Iha, in this world. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. My Lord, even the learned sages become disturbed in their intelligence when they see that your greatness engages in fruitive work, although you are free of all desires, that you take birth, although you are unborn, that you flee out of fear of the enemy and take shelter in a fort, although you are the controller of invincible time, and that you enjoy householder life surrounded by many women, although you enjoy in yourself. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Pure devotees of the Lord are not very much concerned with philosophical speculation in regard to transcendental knowledge of the Lord, nor is it possible to acquire complete knowledge of the Lord. Whatever little knowledge they have about the Lord is sufficient for them, because devotees are simply satisfied in hearing and chanting about the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. This gives them all transcendental bliss. But some of the pastimes of the Lord appear contradictory, even to such pure devotees, and thus Uddhava asked the Lord about some of the contradictory incidents in his pastimes. The Lord is described as having nothing to do personally, and is actually so because even in the creation and sustenance of the material world, the Lord has nothing to do. It seems contradictory, then, to hear that the Lord personally lifts the Govardhana hill for the protection of his unalloyed devotees. The Lord is the Supreme Brahman, the Absolute Truth, the personality of Godhead appearing like a man, but Uddhava had doubts whether he could have so many transcendental activities. There is no difference between the personality of Godhead and his impersonal Brahman. How then can the Lord have so many things to do, whereas impersonal Brahman is stated to have nothing to do either materially or spiritually? If the Lord is ever unborn, how then is he born as the son of Vasudeva and Devaki? He is fearful even to Kala, the supreme fear, and yet the Lord is afraid of fighting. He is fearful even to Kala, the supreme fear, and yet the Lord is afraid of fighting Jarasandha and takes shelter in a fort. How can one who is full in himself take pleasure in the association of many women? How can he take wives and, just like a householder, take pleasure in the association of family members, children, relatives, and parents? All these apparently contradictory happenings bewilder even the greatest learned scholars, who, thus bewildered, cannot understand whether inactivity is a fact or whether his activities are only imitations. The solution is that the Lord has nothing to do with anything mundane. All his activities are transcendental. This cannot be understood by the mundane speculators. For the mundane speculators, there is certainly a kind of bewilderment. But for the transcendental devotees, there is nothing astonishing in this. The Brahman conception of the Absolute Truth is certainly the negation of all mundane activities, but the Para-Brahman conception is full with transcendental activities. One who knows the distinctions between the conception of Brahman and the conception of Supreme Brahman is certainly the real transcendentalist. There is no bewilderment for such transcendentalists. The Lord himself also declares in Bhagavad Gita 10.2, even the great sages and demigods can know hardly anything about my activities and transcendental potencies. The right explanation of the Lord's activities is given by Grandfather Bhismadev, Srimad Bhagavatam 1.9.16 as follows. Nahi asya karhi chid rajan pumam veda vidisitam yad vijij nasaya yukta muyanti kavayo pihi. Okay, so my Lord, even the learned sages become disturbed in their intelligence when they see that your greatness engages in fruitive work, although you are free from all desires, that you take birth, although you are unborn, that you flee out of fear of the enemy, and take shelter in a fort, although you are the controller of invincible time, and that you enjoy householder life, surrounded by many women, although you enjoy in yourself. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So, Dhananjaya, you can go into my room and get first canto Srimad Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita. They're on the seat on the left-hand side. Okay, so here we have the bewildering pastimes of Lord Krishna. They are bewildering to the atheists and the Mayavadis, who are also atheists, because they cannot emulate them. And they rely more on logic and reason than shastric evidence. Now, the atheists reject shastric evidence. The Mayavadis don't reject it, but they give wrong interpretations of it. So therefore, they're in the same position, whether they are atheists or Mayavadis. They do not believe that Krishna is a person and that he exists. Thank you very much. And therefore, they can't accept these what you would call mutually contradictory pastimes of the Lord, and therefore they remain always baffled. So this verse that Bhisma Pitama quotes, Nahiyasya Karichid Rajan 1:9-16 says, O king, no one can know the plan of the Lord, Shri Krishna, even though great philosophers inquire exhaustively, they are bewildered. So great philosophers, meaning the mundane philosophers of India as well as of the West. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The bewilderment of Maharaj Yudhisthira over his past sinful activities and the resultant sufferings, etc., is completely negated by the great authority Bhisma, one of the 12 authorized persons, or Mahajans. Bhisma wanted to impress upon Maharaj Yudhisthira that since time immemorial, no one, including such demigods as Shiva and Brahma, could ascertain the real plan of the Lord. So what can we understand about it? It is useless also to inquire about it. Even the exhaustive philosophical inquiries of sages cannot ascertain the plan of the Lord. The best policy is simply to abide by the orders of the Lord without argument. The sufferings of the Pandavas were never due to their past deeds. The Lord had to execute the plan of establishing the kingdom of virtue, and therefore his own devotees suffered temporarily in order to establish the conquest of virtue. Bhismadeva was certainly satisfied by seeing the triumph of virtue, and he was glad to see King Yudhisthira on the throne. Although he himself fought against him, even a great fighter like Bhisma could not win the battle of Kurukshetra because the Lord wanted to show that vice cannot conquer virtue, regardless of who tries to execute it. Bhismadeva was a great devotee of the Lord, but he chose to fight against the Pandavas by the will of the Lord because the Lord wanted to show that a fighter like Bhisma cannot win on the wrong side. Wow, what a wonderful verse and purport. O king, no one can know the plan of the Lord, Sri Krishna, even though great philosophers inquire exhaustively, and they are bewildered. Well, this is a wonderful verse and purport. And this is also explained in another verse. Let me see if I can find it real quick here. be able to find it right now. Yeah. Okay, I can't find it right now. I'll come back to it later on. So, in this purport today, we have all these anomalies, things that seem to be contradictory and impossible, but yet they're not. So, point number one, if we don't accept that Krishna has unfathomable and infinite potencies, we remain an atheist. So that's point one, most important point. That is, Krishna can do anything he wants. He is not limited in any way because he has infinite potencies. Parasya Shakti Vividaiva Shriyate. This is explained in the Sutta Upanishad, that he has multiple and infinite potencies or powers. So that's who God is. He's not like us. He's not a demigod. He's the supreme, absolute truth personality of Godhead. And he has unlimited powers. So that's the first and most important point. Therefore, we will not be able to understand everything Krishna does because he has a plan, and we can only understand the plan as it unfolds. We cannot predict it in every situation. So therefore, we have to be patient to see what the plan of the Lord is. Just like the other day, one of our devotees got fired from their job. And it was very bewildering because he was a high achiever. So I said to him, Prabhu, don't worry. I said, Krishna has some plan here. There's always a silver lining in misery or in trouble. So look that up. Silver lining in trouble. That's a phrase in English. It's a type of proverb. A silver lining in trouble. So I told him to just be patient and just look for another job. And my hunch is that you'll do much better. What does it say?
It is a sign of hope or a positive aspect in an otherwise negative situation.
There you go. A silver lining in trouble. Is that what it says? A silver lining in trouble, or
It just says silver lining.
silver lining?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So we should never doubt Krishna's goodwill. In fact, we should depend on Krishna's goodwill in every situation. If we are following the regulative principles, if we're chanting our rounds nicely, if we are doing everything that we promised to do at initiation. One person said to me, "Oh, Prabhu, I don't know what to do." I said, "Well, you want to know what to do?" "Yes, tell me." I said, "You should follow what you promised when you got initiated. Then you won't have any problems. No illicit sex, no gambling, no meeting, no intoxication, and chanting 16 good rounds every day. And that's the minimum. There's no maximum, right? And associating in a friendly way with devotees, and if possible, coming out on Harinam Sankirtan. Well, it is possible, but we say if possible because everyone finds a reason why not to come. And there are many reasons why they don't want to come. None of them are valid, of course, but they think they're valid. So here we see, you don't have to be in any doubt if you're initiated. You simply have to follow what you promised to do at initiation. Right? Then there's no problem. So here, Krishna is contradictory, or it seems to be there are many anomalies in the behavior of Krishna, where he can adjust everything because he has infinite powers. See, we don't have infinite powers, so we can't adjust everything. But he has the ability to adjust every situation because of his infinite powers. So therefore, when he was in Dwarka, he acted like an ordinary grihasta. He had a family, he had kids. Of course, his family was 16,108 wives and 10 sons with each wife. And each wife had their own palace with emeralds and jewels and diamonds and gold and silver and marble, you know. So obviously we can't even come close to that. We can't even, have one wife, let alone 16,108 wives. And we can hardly build one house for our family. He's got 16,108 palaces that are all unimaginably opulent. And we hardly have a few kids. He had 10 kids with each wife. So you know, 10 times 16,108, how much is that? So you have to add 1 0 to that. So 160,108 children. Wow. I mean, we can imagine. That's unbelievable. And then they got married and had children also. So just imagine how many Yadus there were in Krishna's time. Right? It's a huge family. Right? So, I mean, even the most powerful sheikh in Saudi Arabia or in the Middle East, the most wives they've ever had is about 160. 160, yeah. And of course, they get old and they die pretty miserably because they're engaged in too much sense gratification. And by the way, that's the cause, that's the real cause of AIDS. The real cause of AIDS is having too much sex. And there's a nice word in English, it says, one vitiates the body. Look that up. V-I-T-I-A-T-E-S. V-I-T. I. V-I-T-I. V-T-A-T-E. What does that say? Vitiate. I think I'm pronouncing it right. I might be not pronouncing it right. You see it?
Yeah, V-I-T-I-A-T-E.
Yeah.
Spoil or impair the quality or efficiency of. Destroy or impair the legal validity of.
What?
Spoil or impair the quality or efficiency.
Yeah. So in other words, it ruins your body having too much sex. And people who pride themselves on doing that, you know, it's like Jeffrey Epstein and what's the other Stein? All the Steins. Weinstein, and this Stein and that Stein. Einstein also. He's one of the Steins. They vitiate, they spoil their health by too much sex. And what happens? It lowers your immune system. It lowers the value of your immune system, and you become, at that point, vulnerable to all kinds of diseases because your immune system is down. So that's the real cause of it. Of course, the doctors don't say that. God forbid they ever say anything like that. Oh, you're having too much sex. You know, people pride themselves on it, and they brag about it. But actually, it is self-destructive. Okay, so here we see Krishna can have 16,108 wives, but that's not the limit of how many wives he can have. He could have 16 million. He could have 16 billion if he wanted to, right? And you could have 10 children or 100 children or 1 million children with each one. Still, he remains Om Purnam Ada Purnam Idam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnam Avadaya Purnam Eva Vasishyate. Completely perfect and whole and never diminished in any way. That is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's why if someone claims they are God, that is the most ridiculous thing they could ever say. And it's considered to be the last phase of illusion, the last and worst phase of illusion, to claim that you are God. Right? And a lot of people claim they're God. There was this one guy, his name was Adida. That doesn't have anything to do with our Adi. His name was Adida. Look him up on the internet, Adida. He was a guy who was preaching Krishna consciousness. So he only changed one thing. He preached Krishna consciousness. He used Prabhupada's books, but he only changed one thing. And he said, you must surrender to Krishna, and voila, here I am. That's the only thing that differed in his philosophy. Do you see him? Huh? Yeah, Adidas Samraj. Go ahead. Let's hear a little nonsense about him. This is very entertaining. And by the way, thank God he's dead. Right?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes.
This is Adida Samraj.
Right.
He was born in November 3rd, 1939 till 2008.
He died in 2008. Yeah. That was the best year. Go ahead.
He was a spiritual teacher, writer, and artist. He was the founder of new religious movement known as Adidam. He changed
Adidam, D-U-M-B.
Yeah,
D-U-M-B, Adidam.
He changed his name. He changed his name numerous times throughout his life. These names included Booba Free John, Da Free John, Da Love Ananda, Da Kalki, Da Avduta, and Da Avabhasa, among others. From 1991 until his death, he was known as Adida, Love Ananda Samraj, or Adida. Adida initially became known in the spiritual counterculture of 1970s, of his books and public talks, and for the activities of his religious community. His philosophy was essentially similar to many Eastern religions, which we spiritual enlightenment as the ultimate priority of human life.
Ultimate what? Priority?
Priority of human life. Ultimate priority of human life. Distinguishing his from other religious traditions, Adida declared that he was a unique historic avatar, incarnation of God.
He's an avatar. In other words, he's God, right? and there are people just as dumb as him that accepted him like that. You can always get some following, you know. Anybody. I mean, you go to India, you claim you're God, you're going to have like immediately about 100 followers, right? And you keep insisting that you're God, it'll go up to 100,000, you know, in a couple of years. That's how dumb people are. So now, if we can understand Krishna's, like I said, he has infinite powers, and nothing can limit him, and therefore, then all these seemingly impossible things, such as he's never born, but yet he's born as the son of Vasudeva and Devaki, it becomes credible because he has infinite powers. He can do anything he wants. You know, and everything he does is not contaminated because he's always acting in his internal potency or yoga maya. So, when he comes in the material world, he's not under the influence of Maya. He's always protected by Yoga Maya. So this is explained in Bhagavad Gita also, where it says, in the 7th chapter, he says, "Fools deride me when I descend in a human form. They do not know my transcendental nature as the Supreme Lord of all that be. Mogasya moga karma no moga karma vichetasa rakshasya masurim chaiva prakritim mohinim srita." Those who are thus bewildered are attracted by demoniac and atheistic views. In that deluded condition, their hopes for liberation, their fruitive activities, and their culture of knowledge are all defeated. Okay, so that's the next verse after Avajanti mam mudha manasimtanam asritaha param bhavam ajananto mama bhuta maheshwaram. So he says that people cannot understand him because they're making fun of him and they're deriding him, they're criticizing him because they don't understand his transcendental nature as the Supreme Lord. So they become attracted by demoniac and atheistic views, and in that deluded condition of life, their hopes for liberation, their fruitive activities, and their culture of knowledge are all defeated. Then he says, Mahatmanastamam parta daivim pakritim asritaha bhajanti ananya manaso mama bhuta maheshwar jiva gyatva bhutadim avayam. Those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the protection of the divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. So in other words, avyayam. He is inexhaustible. He has unending powers. And, okay, so now that's the difference between the demons and the devotees. The demons reject the idea that Krishna has infinite powers, and the devotees accept that he has infinite powers. Therefore, he can do anything he wants, right? All right. Then come back to the 7th chapter where it says, Naham prakasasarvasa yogamaya samandritaha mudoyam navijananti lokamamajam avyayam. I am never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them I am covered by my internal potency, and therefore they do not know that I am unborn and infallible. So, we are all covered by the external potency, Maya, right now. Now, even if we can get free of Maya, still we will not be able to see Krishna. Why? Because he's covered by his Yoga Maya potency. Therefore it says, Hiran Mayana Patrena Satyasya Piyatam Mukam. So it says, my dear Lord, Tatvam Pusam Apavrinu Satya Dharmaya Dristaya. My dear Lord, you are the maintainer of the entire universe, and devotional service to you is the highest religious principle. Therefore, I pray that you will also maintain me. Your transcendental form is covered by the Yoga Maya. The Brahma Jyoti is the covering of the internal potency. May you kindly remove this glowing effulgence that impedes my seeing your Satchitananda Vigraha, your eternal form of bliss and knowledge. So this is the prayer, 15th mantra of Ishopanishad, where the devotee is saying, look, I can't see you right now. I'm a devotee. I'm not interested in Maya, but I still can't see you because you're covered, you're being protected by your Yogamaya potency. The Yogamaya potency, when Krishna comes in the material world, he comes with Yogamaya, which is protecting him, meaning the demons are not able to see him. And even some devotees will not be able to see him unless he chooses to remove the veil, which is the external veil, is the Brahmajyoti, which is a blinding effulgence. He has to remove that veil so that we can see him. So therefore, Hiranmayana Patrena Satyasya Piyatam Mukam. This is a beautiful alternate translation of this verse, which says, O my Lord, you are the maintainer of the entire universe, and devotional service to you is the highest religious principle. Therefore, I pray that you will also maintain me. Your transcendental form is covered by the Yoga Maya. The Brahmajyoti is the covering of the internal potency. May you kindly remove this glowing effulgence that impedes my... So he's talking about the Brahmajyoti, right? It's a glowing effulgence. If you look directly at the sun, especially at noon, you eventually go blind, you see. And especially if you look at the eclipse of the sun, and you keep looking at it, you'll definitely go blind, right? So it says, the Brahmajyoti is the covering of the internal potency. May you kindly remove this glowing effulgence that impedes my seeing your Satchitananda Vigraha, your eternal form of eternity, bliss, and knowledge. Your eternal form of bliss and knowledge. So this is the situation under which the demons cannot see Krishna. Therefore he says, Vedaham samatitani vartamanani charjana bhavishyami chabhutani mam tu vedana kaschana. O Arjuna, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I know everything that has happened in the past, all that is happening in the present, and all things that are yet to come. I also know all living entities, but me, nobody knows. So, this is, the purport there says, here the question of personality and impersonality is clearly stated. If Krishna, the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, were Maya, or material, as the impersonalists consider him to be, then, like the living entity, he would change his body and forget everything about his past life. Anyone with a material body cannot remember his past life, nor can he foretell his future life, nor can he predict the outcome of his present life. Therefore, he cannot know what is happening in past, present, and future. Unless one is liberated from the material contamination, he cannot know past, present, and future. Unlike the ordinary human being, Lord Krishna clearly says that he completely knows what happened in the past, what is happening in the present, and what will happen in the future. In the fourth chapter, we have seen that Lord Krishna remembers instructing Vivaswan, the sun god, millions of years ago. Krishna knows every living entity because he is situated in every living being's heart as the Supersoul. But despite his presence in every living entity as the Supersoul and his presence as the Supreme Personality Godhead, the less intelligent, even if able to realize the impersonal Brahman, cannot realize Sri Krishna as the Supreme Person. There it is. Certainly, the transcendental body of Sri Krishna is not perishable. He is just like the sun, and Maya is like a cloud. In the material world, we can see that there is the sun and that there are clouds and different stars and planets. The clouds may cover all these in the sky temporarily, but this covering is only apparent to our limited vision. The sun, moon, and stars are not actually covered. Similarly, Maya cannot cover the Supreme Lord. By his internal potency, he is not manifest to the less intelligent class of men. As it is stated in the third verse of this chapter, out of millions and millions of men, some try to become perfect in this human form of life. And out of thousands and thousands of such perfected men, hardly one can understand what Lord Krishna is. Even if one is perfected by realization of impersonal Brahman or localized Paramatma, he cannot possibly understand the Supreme Personality Godhead, Sri Krishna, without being in Krishna consciousness. So there it is. This is why people get bewildered by Krishna, because they cannot accept that he has unlimited powers. Why? Out of jealousy, out of hatred. They're jealous of Krishna. And when they hear he has unlimited powers, they don't believe it, because they don't have it. So, therefore, this verse today is extremely important if we want to be Krishna conscious and not bewildered by mundane knowledge. Mundane knowledge bewilders a person. It doesn't help them. It makes them stupid. And this is explained by Srila Prabhupada. And let me see here where it is. Yeah. So he says, well, first of all, one thing that people don't understand is, and we discussed this a little bit, I think it was yesterday or the day before, that the soul actually has a form. Right now, we have our soul is in our heart area. And it's 1/10,000th the tip of a hair. But it has a form. And here's in the 14th of March 1969, in a letter to Rupanuga Das, Prabhupada says, regarding your questions, the spark soul has certainly form, which means hands, feet, etc. This we learn from Bhagavad Gita. The body is described there as vasamsi, which means dress. So unless one has got originally hands and legs, how the dress, coat, and pants and shirt take such form? Wow, what an amazing statement. In other words, like our Vidyanath Prabhu has a shirt on, right? Is that right? You have a shirt on? Yes. So it has an arm area and a shoulder area and a chest area, and it permits you to have your hands out, right? So look what Prabhupada is saying. He's saying, the body is described there as vasamsi, which means dress. So unless one has got originally hands and legs, how the dress, coat, and pants and shirt takes such form? So you have a form right now with hands and legs and so forth. And so the dress that you use, pants and shirt, or dhoti and shirt, they are covering your form. So, therefore, the verse in the Bhagavad Gita, vasamsi jirnani yata vihaya. So let's look at that verse, 2nd chapter, Bhagavad Gita, where it says, 2nd chapter, 22nd verse, right? Yeah. Vasamsi jirnani yata vihaya navani grinanti naro parani tata sarirani vihaya jirnani anyani samyati navani dehi. As a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. So, when we accept the body, we purchase clothes to cover it, and those clothes cover the body. So you have a shirt with arms and chest and neck and hands, right? And you have pants with legs and feet and stomach and so forth. So therefore, the soul is described as having vasamsi. Vasamsi means garments. So therefore, Prabhupada says, the soul has a form because it has garments. So here he says, regarding your questions, the spark soul, or the minute soul, has certainly form, which means hands, feet, etc. Thus we learn from Bhagavad Gita. The body is described there as vasamsi, which means dress. So unless one has got originally hands and legs, how the dress, coat and pants and shirt takes such form? Therefore the spirit soul has original form. When he is in the material energy, the dress is evolved materially. And when he is in the spiritual energy, the dress is evolved spiritually. This is also not very difficult to understand. As our students before coming to my contact, he was supposed to be materially dressed, attached to sense gratification. And after devoting himself in Krishna consciousness, he is gradually developing a spiritual dress. That means attached to satisfying the senses of Krishna. So Prabhupada is absolutely brilliant person, and he's giving an example to understand that the soul actually has a form. It's never formless. Now we might think it's formless because it's 1/10,000 of the tip of a hair, but it's not. So these are things that we cannot perceive ourselves. We can't perceive anything that's 1/10,000 of the tip of a hair. But if you carefully read the Shastra, you will be able to perceive. And we see how Prabhupada did it by this word vasamsi, which is the 2nd chapter, 22nd verse. So if he has a covering, that means that there is a body. That's how he understands. So we should learn from Prabhupada everything. And especially we should learn that Krishna has mutually contradictory qualities that no one else can emulate. That's why he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he can adjust everything, even though they're mutually contradictory, because he has infinite energy. Without accepting that, we remain an atheist. So, in the early book of Prabhupada's letters, this is the 2nd book, he answers many very difficult questions posed by the devotees at that time. And if we want to know what is what, or what are answers to many different questions, we have to also read Prabhupada's letters. Of course, he said, don't show my letters in public. Why? Because they're personal letters to personal devotees. So therefore, he says certain things that he might not say in public. That's because the devotees are asking these very hard questions that need to be answered. So he's answering them. But sometimes he'll say certain things that's better that the public doesn't hear. Okay, so there's another point I wanted to make here. Let's see where it is. Okay, so again, talking about the jiva. So April 25th, 1970. 1 second. Yeah. In a letter to, let's see, where is it? April 25th. April 25th, 1970. Okay, here it is. Oh, where is it? April 25th, 1970. Oh. I'm sorry. It's taking... Okay, in a letter to Jagadish Prabhu, April 25th. April 20th. Where is that? April 16th? 1 second. April 25th, 1970. April. Oh, I'm sorry. April 25th, 1970. Sorry. April 25. Yeah. Regarding your question about how and from where did the conditioned souls fall, your first question, if someone has a relationship with Lord Krishna on Krishna Loka, does he ever fall down?
The souls are endowed with minute independence as part of their nature, and this minute independence may be utilized rightly or wrongly at any time. So there is always the chance of falling down by misuse of one's independence. But those who are firmly fixed up in devotional service to Krishna are making proper use of their independence, and so they do not fall down. Regarding your second question, have the conditioned souls ever seen Krishna? Were they with the Lord before being conditioned by the desire to lord it over material nature? Yes. The conditioned souls are parts and parcels of the Lord, and thus they were with Krishna before being conditioned, just as the child must have seen his father because the father places the child in the womb of the mother. Similarly, each soul has seen Krishna or the Supreme Father, but at that time the conditioned souls are resting in the condition called susupti, which is exactly deep sleep without dream or anesthetized state. Therefore, they do not remember being with Krishna when they wake up in the material world and become engaged in material affairs. I hope this will satisfy your questions. So, Prabhupada is affirming that we were originally with Krishna, and he's affirming that it is possible to fall down from any position. And he says that in other letters also. Okay, so this should answer the questions that were asked a couple times recently. And therefore, the verse today is extremely important because it explains how Krishna can do the impossible, how he can, because he has infinite energies and powers, and he is not limited in any way. Okay, so we'll stop right there. What time is it now? 7:20? Okay. Are there any questions? Yeah.
So, Maharaj, this is a question about we not being able to understand everything of Krishna's plans.
Yeah.
So, when do we continue to be patient and not do anything? And when do we try different things? Because sometimes we may have to, if something doesn't work, we have to try something else. Whereas sometimes we just have to stay patient. So this is a kind of a...
No, we never stop trying. In other words, you never stop trying to be Krishna conscious. If you try always to be Krishna conscious, then Krishna will help you. You see? So when you say, you're saying, well, we should try something. So if we can't find a job in Seattle, let's try find a job anywhere in the United States. That's what you're implying. But what I'm saying is that if you're always following Krishna consciousness, then Krishna will help you. I'll give you an example. And you can ask him if this is true or not. One time, what's his name? One devotee, Amritananda, lost his job, right? And he was looking for a job, he couldn't find one, so he came and talked to me about it. I said, Prabhu, do you want to leave Seattle? He said, no, I'm very happy here. I want to stay here if I can, but I'm going to be forced to leave. I said, no. If you really want to stay here because you like the temple, because it's easy for you to be Krishna conscious, etc., then you just keep chanting and keep looking for a job, and it'll happen. He said, really? He said, but I've been looking, I haven't found anything. I said, just keep praying to Krishna, not to have a job, but to always be able to stay close to the temple, where you're able to be Krishna conscious easily. And let's see what happens. He found a job. Not the next day, but I think 1 or 2 months later, he found a job, and he's always been able to stay here. This happened a long time ago, right? And it happens a lot. It happens a lot. It's not just him. It happens to other people too. So a lot of people will move, right? But if they're attached to the temple and to serving the deity, and they're attached to the community because it's helping them be Krishna conscious, then Krishna's going to help you. There's no doubt about it. And the point he was making is, well, in my expertise, there are not that many jobs in the Seattle area. I said, doesn't matter. Just keep chanting and following strictly Krishna consciousness, and your desire is to stay close to the temple. So Krishna will help you. And he did. Right? So you never stop trying, but you never stop trying to be Krishna conscious, right? And you show you have in your heart the fact that this particular temple is very accommodating to helping you be Krishna conscious, right? You live in a neighborhood, the community is a nice community, you always have chances for service and learning and so forth. So, and Krishna is in your heart. Just like one time, Haridas Thakur was living in a cave. And people would come to associate with him in that cave, and he would speak to them. But there also was a very dangerous big snake in that cave. And at one time, the devotees told Haridas Thakur, look, we love coming here and talking to you and your association, but we're just absolutely frightened by this snake. Sometimes we see him, and it's a huge snake, and it's a very dangerous one. We're not going to come anymore. And Haridas Thakur said, oh, that's a shame. He said, I really like you coming, And when he said that, the snake came out, slithered out of the cave, and never came back again. Now, why did that happen? Because Krishna is in the heart of the snake, as well as he's in the heart of Haridas Thakur and all the people that were visiting him, right? And when Krishna saw that it was an inconvenience to Haridas Thakur, he gave the knowledge to the snake to slither out of that cave and not come back. Then there's a pastime. It's in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. You can read it. Okay? So we have to have faith that Krishna is in the heart of every living entity, including ourselves. And that if we have pure desires to serve Krishna, not mixed desires, but pure desires to serve Krishna, then he's always going to help us in some mysterious way. And it's mysterious. That snake going out of the cave, that was mysterious, right? Why did it do it? Krishna is in the heart of every living entity. Okay, so we have to have this faith. Everything, the position of a devotee is the position of a devotee is determined by how much faith they have in Krishna and Guru. So, if you build up your faith by associating with people who have faith, then you will see the helping hand of Krishna in your life. We should be absolutely certain about that. Okay, we'll stop right there. There's still one thing I didn't find, but I'm going to find it and I'll read it later on. Hari Bol. All glories to Prabhupada. And somebody can chant Guru Puja. Go ahead.
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma
Shri Guru Charana Padma
Bandho Moi Savadana Mate Jahara Prasade Bai E Baba Toriya Jai Krishna Prapti Hoy Jaha Hoy Te Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitite Koriya Kya Arana kori ho mane asha Shri Guru Charane rati Aise utama gati Jai Prasade Pure Sarva Asha Chakshudan dilo jai janme janme Prabhu se Chakshudan dilo jai janme janme Prabhu se Divye gyan hruday prakashito Prema bhakti jaha hoite avidya vinasha jate Prema bhakti jaha hoite avidya vinasha jate Ved gay jahar charito Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adama Janara Bandhu Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adama Janara Bandhu Lokinath Lokera Jivana Ha ha Prabhu Koro Daya Deho More Pada Chaya Ha ha Prabhu Koro Daya Deho More Pada Chaya Ebe Jas Goshuk Tribhuvana Srila Prabhupada Patita Pavana Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद चैतन्य नित्यानंद जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद चैतन्य नित्यानंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय प्रभुपद जय प्रभुपद जय प्रभुपद जय प्रभुपद जय गुरुदेव जय गुरुदेव जय गुरुदेव जय गुरुदेव नित्य गौर हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि बोल
Jai Ho Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parvajapitasta Tarasatarishi Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Shri Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai Anattakoti Vaishnava Ki Jai Namacharya Sulakandas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Shri Mayapura Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Tulasi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Jamuna Mai Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Devi Nitai Gaura Pramananda. All glories to the Samaveda, all glories to Samaveda, all glories to the Samaveda, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Guru, all glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Puti Smata Bhaktana Smata Namaste Sasasati Devi Guru Chani Visesana Skati. the lotus feet of our spiritual master, are the only way by which we can attain the pure devotional service. I bow to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence.
By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic prema emanates. By him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, and the Lord of master devotees. O Master, be merciful unto me. Give me the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread all through the three worlds. We take shelter of your lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Namaha Om Vishnu Padaya. So I found what I was looking for, and it's in the 9th chapter, 28th verse. It says, "It is said, therefore, by Vaishnava authorities, that even the most intelligent person cannot understand the plans and activities of a pure devotee. The exact words are, Tandra Vaikya Kriya Mudra Vijneha Na Bujaya." Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 23:39. A person who is thus always engaged in the service of the Lord, or is always thinking and planning how to serve the Lord, is to be considered completely liberated at present. And in the future, his going back home, back to Godhead, is guaranteed. He is above all materialistic criticism, just as Krishna is above all criticism. So, there you go. Even the most intelligent person cannot understand the plans and activities of a pure devotee. How about Krishna? Right. So we should be very patient and not try and guess things, but be absolutely convinced that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He has infinite powers, and if he wants, he can help us. If he doesn't want, that's also his help, because he has a plan, right, for us also individually. So, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hari Bol.